Welcome, everybody, to episode number 3 of Leading the Change with today's topic, Reversing the Decline in Sustainability Engagement, Mobilizing for Sustainability Change and Solutions. For those that haven't had the chance to watch episode 1 and 2, please do so. Today's episode is building on what we talked about in episode number 2, where we explored the topic of the power of CEO buy-in for any transformation or change. And we are building on that today on a topic that you read and hear in recent weeks and months more and more, and that is that sustainability falls behind on the agenda of CEOs, or how a recent United Nations and Accenture study called it, the global sustainability agenda is off track. So let's talk about today on the factors that are contributing to this decline and the importance for you to understand this trend and using this trend to drive change. Then we want to talk about strategies and solutions to mobilize individuals and organizations, again, for sustainable engagement. And let's have some inspiring examples, and they are luckily existing, where sustainability is driven forwards. I think if we look around us, facts, events that are happening in our daily life, are there enough? Just think about, I think most of us have watched news, and I was astonished again yesterday when I was looking at the weather channel in the south of Spain. They are confronted nowadays, yesterday, with temperatures between 35 and 40 degrees, where one of the guys said, normally we should have around 20 degrees and not 40 degrees. And I followed it in Austria. You have the so-called Neusiedlersee, which is on the border between Austria and Hungary. Or there are other examples of lakes and rivers that have water levels that I think are unseen in our history. And all of this already so early in the year. So facts, I think, are there. Our planet Earth is giving us a very strong signal that business as usual is not possible anymore. So, and I think, Catherine and I, we discussed it a few times, and we are asking ourselves, so how the hell is it then possible with all the facts, all the science that are happening, that I think all the information is available, that there is, I wouldn't say no action, but that there is so less action and there is so less happening, and how can it be that the sustainable engagement is falling behind? So let's talk about it. And I think there could be, of course, a few reasons. And I just name a few and then let's dive in. I think probably the most obvious one that very often is named is the economical situation nowadays. A second one could be, I would call that the short-term mindset. Let's explore that later. Or I would even say there is power and greed outside that could be a factor for getting sustainability engagement a bit back on the agendas. You also read about people quoting, we have a shortage of resources, and then they refer to resources, people, but also budget. And also just yesterday, Catherine and I participated in an interesting webinar from the Cambridge Church Business School, and it was an interesting panel. And one of the ladies participating also said it. There is sustainability, of course, is a very complex topic. It is very wide, and sustainability is a journey. It is not a destination in itself. And people are angry, they don't have the knowledge, they are afraid of the complexity. So those are just a few. If I let me start, Catherine. I think if I take the most obvious one, so this, as I said, people, CEOs are saying, yeah, since the pandemic, since the war in the Ukraine, with the consequence of rising energy prices, rising prices in itself for all other goods, inflation, supply chains that are confronted with difficulties, shortages in supply, etc., etc. So I would say this is used as an excuse
It's
by
it's used
CEOs.
it is used
Yeah,
as an excuse. I mean, I think that there is absolutely, I mean, this disengagement when it comes to sustainability, but there's also this greenwashing. I mean, for now, next year, with the CSRD regulation or directive, which is then will be applicable, it will be become harder and harder for CEOs to, how should I say, to not have sustainability or ESG on their table. And to come back to this, to say that because of everything which is going on, the poly crisis, I mean, whatever, is it a business resiliency? It is talent war? Is it technology? I mean, it's kind of interesting that so many CEOs are really interested in what are the next technology to apply. Is it metaverse? Is it NFTs? Is it tokens? And basically, they're distracting themselves. I would say, yesterday evening, I worked with some peers, coaches in the critical thinking area, and I said, okay, I'm going to play the CEO who has been successful up to now, but Mrs. Cash needs to get some additional cash to renew some production components in his company, and who is not getting the money because his business case is not ESG compliant. What happened? So I started to get into this role, and I must say it is, they feel, they won't say it, but most of them can feel cornered because ESG is complex from a reporting, from a governance perspective, but they don't, it's not even a comfort zone that where they don't want to go out. It's, I think that you mentioned it. I mean, the complexity of problems has increased, and so, but it is skyrocketing the external factors, and the way on how we grow, it's way flatter. I mean, flat, the curve. So there is a gap, and this gap, if we don't take care of it, we are, I mean, we are running in the wrong direction, and we will, I mean, be ending at at doing nothing, being frozen like a deer at night on by the light of cars. And I think it is, but I don't think it is only the CEOs, and I don't want to cite now one of the top consultancy firms. They do a great job, but the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So on the
yeah,
left hand, they're bringing good surveys out on showing where the pain points are in moving forward with sustainability. When they talk about their right hand, about business resiliency, building ecosystems, moving forward, transforming the company, they don't even, I mean, they don't even mention the word ESG or sustainability. So you have, I mean, we have biases all levels. And I think it is time for each of us not to blame the other, but to see how we can help out each other. Because most of us are frozen or are forgetting, I mean, have a blind spot for whatever reason. And so it is time definitely that we bring this engagement, sustainability engagement back. It will come back, but it will come back by the rules and by regulation. And this is maybe not what we want, I mean, entirely, because there are so many opportunities that can be generated for CEOs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think um, what you said, and as I started with this, as I also say, I think it's an excuse, and I think it's CEOs should really question themselves. Am I taking up the role serious as I should be? Because no CEO, or the CEO is there to set out the North Star, the direction. The CEO should be there for the medium and long term, and you have your team that is then executing in the operation in the day to day where you set out. And I think you very often you hear CEOs talking, I need to save the company. That's why I'm now
Yeah.
focusing on the short term, because there is no long term without the short term. But they really miss the opportunities that you just mentioned.
I mean, Hans Peter, I mean, if they're saying there is, I mean, my background is restructuring companies. So at least the pain points were so big that the CEOs and the CFOs didn't have other chances than moving forward. But there is also something, I mean, we are trapped in our own system. We are really in a shareholder still, I mean, capitalism. And
Yeah,
so we are really promoting, even if you do 3 to 5 years strategic planning, whenever on the quarter number two, at the end of quarter two, you are not heading in the right or in the budgeted direction. What is happening? You're freezing the hires. Quarter three, if it's still going on, you start, I mean, eliminating people or reducing the headcount. Meaning, what often falls in the trap is all the people that are bringing some silent additional values. Would it be functions where also ESG will be residing? So you tend to push people again to the short term, and to move away from it, to go to the stakeholder capitalism and to have to collaborate, is something which is not in our DNA. I mean, we have been, I mean, our generation, we have been educated, we have been trained, we have been brainwashed. And I don't say that badly, but we have been so much in it that it is a reflex today. So you so it is really important to become mindful and aware of what is going on. So now
yeah.
the question is, how can you? No, no, continue you first, because I'm already in the solutions.
But I think what you just said, to build on your last point, and there is some truth. People sometimes say, we were trained, we learned how we have to function. I think it is a bit of time that we need to unlearn what we learned. It's really becoming disruptive. So we need to really think totally different. And let me also add, in the what also doesn't help, I think, if we talk about short-term mindset of organizations, the power and the greed of people that they wanna, and it is existing. This shareholder value maximization short term, that still is prevailing. That still is there. And
Mhm.
but what also doesn't help, and I think I have there, I don't really have a solution how to overcome it. But governments, they are elected for 4 5 years, and yes, they are there, but very few of them really dare to take unpopular decisions. And again, now last generation in Germany is in Berlin on the streets, and no politician is present and talking about it. And it's, I think, this short-term mindset of government, of politicians. I don't know how we can overcome that, and because I think there are uh, good regulations. So the European Community, European Commission, they are bringing things on the road, and there are politicians bringing that forward. But yeah, I think it's if you think about what they do, then it needs to follow international. It's taking all so long, and it takes so much time that sometimes I think frustrating. And I think if companies say, yeah, short-term mindset of governments is also inhibiting action, there is some truth in it. But yeah, I think
There, there is some truth. On the other side, I think it is. Um, I would say if we look at from a governmental perspective, from a community projects, cities which have moved into the right direction, there is still some hope. I think that we must collectively see what we can do. I mean, individually, but also as companies to see how we can help each other. And it is a really complex thing. But, I mean, there are some examples of companies who really made everything to look really good and did a good job on ESG, and who are now, I mean, did some pretty heavy lobbying over the last 2 months, 3 months with the German government, and who are then selling one of their divisions to an American company. So, I mean, sometimes I mean, this has to do with power and greed, and no one can tell me that this was not used to also increase the value of the company.
yeah,
So the reason why, and Edgar is asking or is making a comment, how can it be that we have the data, nothing happened? People do not care. They are in the trap of the sleep, work, eat, fear matrix.
yeah,
Um, yes, and this is also the reason why it is up to each of us to make sure that we escape from this fear matrix. And I just execution and fear, because one thing is clear, and you said it earlier. I mean, no one can do it alone. We can only achieve this sustainability, this journey, by having an inclusive approach and having everyone participating within the
yes,
company as well as externally with the stakeholders. And I'm I'm
but
still, with the new regulations, I'm still optimistic. We just need to remind the CEO or the C-suite who are tending, who tend to be to sidetrack and to look at short terms, that there are solutions out there. So do they want to be the ones who are achieving it, or do they want to be bypassed by
yeah,
others?
yeah. And I think what you just said, the collaboration. I think um, I'm convinced that no company, no, not even a country alone, will solve sustainability, the challenge that we have. And that's again, we learned. We learned when we grew up in companies. You have your competitive advantage. Don't talk too much about your competitive advantage with the outside, with competitors. So it was very inwards looking, and that we need to unlearn, because with
Mm.
sustainability we need partnerships internal, but we also need partnerships. And if I give an example on recycling in textile industry, textile recycling, that will only work if competitors are building partnerships and advancing that. So we need to unlearn that. Yes, you are a competitor, but in some cases you are also a partner to advance technologies or to advance the way towards sustainability. I think if we, what you just, what you also said is that if we talk about solutions, what I would also, what I think is important, because yes, we are individuals can drive change and should drive change in organizations. So if anyone is asking, yeah, but what can I do? If you haven't done it, educate yourself. So there is good information outside that gives you case studies, that gives you examples which you can learn, and you don't need to be. Neither is Catherine, neither am I. We are not the super sustainability expert because the sustainability is so complex. But the more you educate yourself, the more you can talk about it, the more you can contribute towards this change. And what we will do is after the session, we will also add in the comments a few websites which we find very useful, that you can just look into it and then explore it. And they give you some good case studies that you could use, because one of the things that you should do is talk about it. Don't hide away and fall into what Edgar said, into this trap: sleep, work, eat, and get paralyzed. No, dare to talk about it. If you are confronted within your company or with other CEOs, other people, uh, ask critical questions, but more importantly, show them solutions, give them positive examples of how it can happen. Because I think, as I said, let us all be part of the solution and not adding up the problems. So problem adding up, I think that's the simplest way to do. I think persuading people with positive solutions is much stronger.
And what I would add on top of that is network. Go out on, I'm amazed on LinkedIn how many people are doing, are active. I mean, are specialists in, experts in certain domains of sustainability, of ESG. Go out, because there is you ask for help. I mean, I've seen it myself, and I will be very, very, very transparent. When I taught last year at the University on Digital Transformation, um, I used sustainability basically as a conceptual northern star, and I realized at the end of the course that it was not, I mean, the students did a good job, great job. They moved and built wonderful cases, but I realized that sustainability is not a northern star. It's not a concept. As whenever you are either a change maker, you are a CEO, you are an executive, you are a team leader, sustainability should be at the core of the strategy, at the core of the operations. And it is really about it is not something that we can put outside. And I still have a lot of debate. I mean, still, it will continue for the next years, but I have a lot of debates with people who are learning on learning strategy or leadership, and where I'm telling them, you're missing the point. You are basically reiterating and carrying the same mistakes forward. Because what do we see with all the directives which are coming out is that we have a split of the types of businesses. We have the ones who have to comply, and we have the small entities, the legal entities, the very, I mean,
Yeah,
like you and I, we are,
yeah,
who are not, have not to comply with sustainability. And what
not
do
yet.
we do? not yet, but even not yet, but still, when we see, I mean, young entrepreneurs, I mean, being able to earn quickly money, I mean, for them to fly around with a private jet, you know, I mean, there is a lot of education throughout all the ages, and we need the help of all the ages to make it happen.
Yeah. And I think what you said is it should be sustainability needs to be part of a company's strategy. It needs to be part of the mission and the vision, and it needs to be looked holistically. It's not a single thing. And I think what companies where they can do better, it's not enough to say I have a sustainability department and I have staffed it up and they will solve it. No, I think
Mhm.
sustainability will only really work for a company if it is getting into the DNA of the company. It's a cultural, it's a mindset change. And if a company fails to get all the stakeholders, it's not only the employees, but they are the most important because employees are the engine of businesses, I'm convinced. If companies fail to get the employees into sustainability, then I think it's like driving a Ferrari in the first gear, where you still have the second, the third, and the fourth gear. So I think that I think
Yes.
is important, and that we shouldn't forget.
And the solution we want to bring are the links that we will publish. You will see what is terrific is that they don't talk about the financials. They talk about what the impact has been, what the opportunities, what the company gained, what happened. So it is really the butterfly effect. We see it
Yeah,
happen in front of our eyes. And uh, and I know, I mean, when I talk with young people, and who especially, I mean, dedicate their studies to sustainability, I ask them the question, what are you going to do once you join a corporation or a larger company, and that you feel that at one point in time that you got trapped, or lied upon, because nothing really moves? What
yeah,
can you do to change and still be there? Because it will be a longer process than we initially thought, because we have
yeah,
the resistance that comes and that we're facing is the ones because we have all collectively to change our mindset in which we grew up, and to bring some new layers on how, okay, we're yeah, we are basically reinventing ourself.
yeah, yeah. And I think, yeah, if I look at the time, so we are our 30 minutes are up. I think if there are any questions or comments, I think Edgar, we just also talked about it. Kenza, thank you for talking about this very important topic, very useful. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And please, if you feel that we missed something, or if you would like to add anything, or more importantly, if you have any topic that you want us to take up in our next episode, which will come in 4 weeks' time, please comment or send us some direct messages. Or if you have any other questions, always contact. You can always contact Catherine or myself. And with that, I think it only rests to wish you guys, for those, I think for most of us in Europe at least, have a long weekend, with 1st of May be a public holiday, the day of the work. So where most of the people are on the streets to demonstrate, which is good. But yeah, let's see you all hopefully next in 4 weeks' time, next month. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.